So here are the transplants. I've got cucumber. This is Feroce Delicate, which is going to go out in the lazy garden. And I've got the containers already finished for it. I'll do an update on that later. Here are melons, which are also going to go out in the lazy garden. And over here are more of the kabacha. This is, oh, here's the kabacha. What is this here? This is, oh, I see the tag back here. Let me get that little, yeah, these are the zucchini. I've got two different lines of zucchini going on, a dehybridization and a cross, which I'm really enjoying both of them, what they're looking like. Really good here. All right, so let's go look at stringing up some tomatoes. What we've got here is brandy bear, and I let it branch into two main vines here, the primary and one of the suckers. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to string them up like this and grow two from each particular plant. Now I've got my tomato twine here, and I've got some tomato clips in the bag, and I've got 2 lengths of tomato twine that I'm going to cinch together, and then we'll carry it up. So the first thing I'll do is I'll take the ends here and I'll put it in the tomato clip like so, and then I'll put it around the base here and snap it together. Now what I've got here is a secure base that I have 2 links that I will run up. Alright, so I'm going to take one of the 2 twines and I'm going to bring it up here to the top of the trellis. I'm going to wrap it around a couple times here so it'll relieve the stress on the tomato clip. So the weight is going to be up here, and then I'm going to do the same thing with the other side here, a little further apart. And we'll clip that up there. So now I've got a V here. All right, so now I've got 2 V's, and now it's just a matter of connecting the tomato plant to each vine. Now, you probably may have noticed, but I removed a lot of the lower leaves down here. I'll go ahead and take this one out too, along with this sucker. And so I got a bucket over there for the extras, trimmings and whatnot. So I've taken the extra leaves off the bottom there and removed all the suckers before I did this. I think it was yesterday or the day before I did that. And so now I'm going to do this with all the tomatoes, well, in the whole raised garden. I'll give you a quick look once I'm done, but it's going to be the same process more or less, except for tomatoes grown on the vertical trellis part of this. They'll just be attached to the trellis itself. All right, this is kabacha. It's a winter squash, and it's round, and this is actually a dehybridization. This is the 3rd generation of dehybridizing it, and the reason why I'm dehybridizing is because I want to cross it to another type of winter squash to create my own winter squash called Ozark Winter. But anyway, I've got many plants here, and what I'm going to do is grow them up here and then across on a trellis. And these kabacha don't get really big. They're probably about this big, maybe 2 pounds or so. So yeah, let's get to it. It's pretty simple. These are the same 2-inch by 2-inch pots that I plant most stuff in. And I'll just use my hand and dig a little hole. Take it out, dump it in, cover it up, piece of cake. Move on to the next one. That's what's so great about raised beds. One, I can sit on this little stool here and I can reach everything nicely. Plus it's super easy to plant in. You know, just you don't have to use any tools, just use your hands if you use a good mix here instead of soil, but you don't want to use soil anyway in a raised bed. But yeah, it's just phenomenally great. Everything grows well in it. You got the irrigation, it's automatic timer. It's just I set it up to be really easy. That's it for the kabacha. All planted. In no time at all, we'll have nice vining plants with a lot of baby squash all over it. Oh, let's take a look at the raised bed garden. Today's May 1st. And in these first 2 beds, I've got rose cherry bear growing up the trellis. And I've got Madison's Cross regrow, this seed way back in the first generation, and I'm regrowing it, and the purpose of that is to create a similar line that I can cross to the open pollinated Madison's Cross I have now to create a hybrid. And hopefully what that'll do is that'll instill the vigor that I want to see, a little bit more vigor in Madison's Cross. And yeah, so that's the point of the regrow. So let's look at Rose Cherry Bear, and we see we've got some fruit on her in many of the crosses. Now these are grown double stem here, and this is a kind of a large cherry if you're not following. It's also parthenocarpic. For sure the last generation was, and I'm pretty certain this one's going to be as well, knowing parthenocarpy. But yeah, they're looking very healthy. I really like the plant structure and leaf morphology of Rose Cherry Bear, and it's a very tasty large cherry. And the next 2 raised beds following Rose Cherry Bear is more of the Madison's Cross regrow. When you do this in the 2nd generation, you need to plant a lot of them to make a good selection, because the 2nd generation is the best generation for diversity and selection. You can see here where some of the rice hulls popped up from the rain we had. And let me go ahead and weed a little bit. There's not a whole lot to it. Now in this bed I also planted 4 of the purple GMO tomato, and the only reason why I did that is because I had the space, and I just want to, even though they're not that tasty, I want to eat them while I'm out here messing around, just because I have the space and because of supposed health characteristics. In the 3rd row here of the 2 side by side, I've got more of the Madison's Cross regrow, and in the back here these tomatoes are a cross between Rose Cherry Bear, which I showed you at the beginning here, and Brent, my original mutant tomato, which is also a parent of Rose Cherry Bear. and I crossed them back together to see if it would create a hybrid parthenocarpic variety. And I'm looking to improve upon Rose Cherry Bear a little bit in parthenocarpy aggressiveness and overall sweet, because Brent is ultra sweet. In this bed here, I haven't planted the eggplant yet, but this is where the eggplant's going to go in the front of the row here. But you may have seen me over the winter. I brought in one of the butternut crosses that I made from Honeygold, second generation, and it was doing really well, but it wasn't producing any males. It's still not producing many males. I see one down there, but what it does do is it produces the dickens out of females all the way up and down, and I managed to pollinate 2. I've got this one here and this one here, and I'll continue to attempt to pollinate those. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this thing turns out. I grew it all winter, and I took one plant and propagated it through root cuttings into, how many we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think it was 8 originally, and it looks like there's 7 here. So that's 7, and on this particular bed again, I'm going to have the eggplants. Now the eggplant that I'm planting is a cross between a royal purple and a Louisiana green oval. So I crossed those two. I'm just curious what that hybrid would present. So those are going to be planted out soon. I've got them almost ready to put in here. The next 2 beds following Honeygold second generation is a open pollinated parthenocarpic line I call Donovan. It's also the parent of Brandy Bear, which is my flagship slicing tomato. Donovan is a really aggressive parthenocarpic line. It makes beautiful tomatoes with really good taste. I just didn't prefer the structure, the plant structure, the leaf morphology, the stem thickness and all that compared to Brandy Bear. If you just kind of look at the difference between the two, you can see that Brandy Bear is a stouter type tomato. Both exceptional tomatoes for taste. Brandy Bear just has a little better shape, a little better plant structure and all that. So this is again Donovan. I'm doing it to save the seed from the open pollinated line, and this is going to be our eater. Another thing about Donovan is you can see here it took after the parent Brent, which was a cherry tomato, and it produces a ton of flowers, and for slicers that's not ideal, so I'm having to cut them back to 3. When I see 3 fruit, I'll cut the rest of the flowers off. So that's not ideal. You want to have between 3 and 5 flowers if possible, so you don't have to do all the trimming of the fruit. So yeah, otherwise what it would do is the trusses would get real heavy and fall over and crack. So that's it for these. Now I've got an eaten up Madison's Cross regrow there, and a couple more here. And these 2 beds are Brandy Bear on the trellis and Madison's Cross in the front on both sides here. Now these particular Brandy Bear are a sibling to the ones I just talked about here. This last are these 2 here beds. I've got Madison's Cross regrow in this particular bed. Looks like 4 plants out of 5 made it. And on the back there, I've got a kabacha. I had some extra plants, and I'm going to grow them up a string just because I didn't want to waste them. Over here, I've got the asparagus bed, and these things, just look at the size of these asparagus spears that are coming up are huge. And so they're kind of, last year they were leafing out lower, so now it's open, which I'm very thankful for, and I also am going to trim them to be that way. But I took a string here, you can see the string through the foliage there, and kept them in bay, and I'm going to let them grow up and through the trellis up here, the arbor trellis, whatever you want to call this. And finally, the last 2 beds on this side are peppers and small fruits. So in this particular bed, I've got Corbello, which is a cross between Jimmy Nardello and Courbaki. This is the 5th generation. I got 4 plants of those. And then I've got Jimmy Nardello, which is one of the parents of these, growing here. I just want to do a comparison both in appearance and in taste between the two. Behind it is the blackberries, and the blackberries are Primark Freedom, which is a thornless variety here, and they're producing like crazy. I was concerned last year that I wasn't going to get any, but boy am I getting them this year on the Primocane, or the Floricane, sorry, the Floricane. The Primocane is the first year. But this thing is sending out shoots like crazy. Like you see here, it's just totally filled this bed with its roots. And I think the peppers are suffering a good bit because of it. I'm having to water or fertilize extra here. But I'm taking these and I'm pulling them out like that. And you can see this root come from way underneath there. And I'm taking them out and just tossing them. I'll pick that up in a minute, because if I don't, they're just going to overtake this bed completely. Now I won't plant anything else in this bed for blackberries next year, so I've learned that lesson. The blackberries just overtake the bed. I'm kind of concerned that it might try to find its way through the fabric and try to come up through the fabric. It's so aggressive, it's crazy. Over here in this particular bed, the small berry is grapes, and they are not coming back. They obviously died. And so there's no green on them anywhere. So these peppers have a bed that they can have on their own. And these peppers here are one that I really like. I call it Italian Sweet. And it's just a great project pepper for me. It's a long, skinny orange pepper, super sweet. Very tasty, much better than a bell. Let's walk over here to my last 2 raised beds here. And the first row, I've got Emerald Sweet Cucumber here in the front, and in the back is a cross between desert hybrid, which I crossed it at the F2 generation with a seed bank cultivar called Ambassador that I got seed from the seed bank. So I crossed those two because I really like this type of foliage here with the silver pattern on it, and the fruit on it was quite excellent in its own right. So that one's looking good so far. This one is the F2 generation. In this last bed here, I've got the shade cloth up because the transplants, you saw me plant them a bit ago, but the transplants themselves were still young, but now they're hardy. I can take the shade cloth down now. So in the back, I've got kabacha, and that one that looks pretty uniform actually, which is pretty cool. And in the front here, I've got the F3, or the 3rd generation of desert hybrid. So I'm dehybridizing it, if you will. So I picked the best one in the 2nd generation last year, and so far it looks pretty consistent, which is good. But the fruit will be the ultimate test, and I may end up crossing this back to the one I showed you a minute ago, the other cross between desert and Ambassador. So we will see. So that's it pretty much for my raised bed garden. And you can see there, that's my blueberry tree. That particular cultivar or variety, I don't even know what it was. I planted it a long time ago, but it's super prolific. It's the only one that I have, so it's obviously self-fertile without the need for another one. Look at all those fruits, and I get 3-4 gallons full of blueberries off of that, and it's really good too. So I need to propagate that. I tried to air layer it last year, and I don't think I waited long enough, or I didn't do it correctly. So I'm going to try to do it again and plant some of these in other locations. So this is what it looks like generally speaking. I can go ahead and take that shade cloth down now too, because it was shading some younger tomatoes that were on the other side. I'll go ahead and do that. But everything's looking really good out here, and it complements the lazy garden that I have. Well, I'll show you if you're not aware out there. So this is Brent, you guys. I appreciate you tuning in. Please subscribe, like, and comment. I try to answer all my comments. I appreciate your support. And until the next one,